So there's a journal, a research journal called Meteoric and Planetary Science. And back in 2013, they actually wrote a paper called A New Method to Determine the Direction of Impact. And what they were trying to do is they were trying to determine if a meteor impacted the Earth, what should we be looking at? And it says in the abstract, most impacts occur at an angle with respect to the horizontal plane. Now, this should make perfect sense to every single person that's listening today, because the planet is rotating at over 1,000 miles an hour. Anything that hits the Earth as an impact is going to make its impact along the horizontal plane. It will leave a streak pattern. And one of my, talents, if you will, is seeing similarities. And I realized that the rim of the Himalayan mountain chain is actually the rim of the impact with some other celestial body. And what I've got here for the slide, if you guys can see that, I'm sure you have, I hope you can, is that at the heart of my work was the Thunderbolts Project. And the Thunderbolts Project said, hey, look, there was an apocalypse in antiquity, and that apocalypse was of an electrical nature. And so as I started looking around at some of the examples that they used, one of the examples they used is up in the right-hand corner. And this is a petroglyph that was etched into stone. And it is a petroglyph of the electrical charge differentiation between what impacted the Earth and the Earth. This is an electrical diagram. And the reason that it's round is because a planet, the planet Venus, as proposed by Velikovsky, impacted the Earth. And because it was electrical, we have to define what kind of electrical interaction it was. And in the lower right-hand corner, you had a gentleman back in 1950 by the name of Thomas Kuhn. And Kuhn took a picture of what's called the negative electrical charge, which has a round electrical head. And the reason that the crater rim is round is because there was an electrical exchange between the Earth and Venus. Venus acted like an anode and the Earth acted like a cathode. And the streak pattern that we see coming behind that area, right behind it and up into Asia, going through China, that's all caused by heat and what we would otherwise call electrical ionization. The surface was burned. And that burned scar is why the Himalayan mountains and the entire desert in that area was formed. It was formed as the two magnetospheres interacted electrically. There is actually a second site on Venus, and that site on Venus is also 1,600 miles across, the same as the arc created by the Himalayan mountain chain.
And this is very similar to what was also been documented across the surface of Mars.
And so what you're bringing up is really great, because it really brings to the question, hey, so how does this happen? And the answer is the story of the helical model of our planetary formation, right? The idea that everything circled around the sun and then in little balls of their own, they circled around themselves, is completely unreplicable. There is no model anywhere in the world that can replicate the helical model creation of our solar system. And so instead, the electric universe theory says that the planets formed along a string. And that string is just a current of electromagnetism called the Birkeland current. And in that formation, Venus, Earth, and the Mars formed along that string. And what eventually happened is that Venus fell into the Earth and the Earth fell into Mars. And in the final stage of the apocalypse, there was an electrical discharge both north and south that ionized those two planets. And that's why both of them share the same completely annihilated surface. Those two planets experienced an electrical discharge that fried them. And in the case of Venus and Mars, we share a synchronous orbit with both of those planets. In the case of Venus, we share a 13-to-8 synchronous orbit. Every 13 times Venus goes around the sun, the Earth goes around 8, and we meet at the exact same location. And at that point, in what we would call its, major retrograde, when Venus is its closest to the Earth, at a point in antiquity, they weren't just close as in, near each other. They were in very close contact. And that electrical discharge ionized Venus, which is why its poles are flipped, and why it rotates backwards in a synchronous orbit with the Earth. What we're looking for is we're looking for answers that answer the most questions. And the only way that you get a synchronous orbit between Mars, Earth, and Venus is if they were in close contact in antiquity. And in fact, in the bottom of this screen here, what you see is you can see what's called the Artemis Chasm. And that's that C shape in the crust of Venus. That C shape is in the southern hemisphere of Venus because the Himalayan mountain chain is in the northern hemisphere of Earth. These are the opposite scars of the exact same event. And if you look at the scar on Earth and you just consider it like a golf divot, a golf ball divot, you know, this is one of those things I tell people, look, once you see it as a golf ball divot, you can't unsee it. In particular, from the front, you really get this sense that something skid off the surface of the Earth. And that's the purpose of the slide that I'm showing you, is to show you that both from the front, the back, from straight ahead of it, you're just looking at a divot in the surface of the Earth. And this divot represents a single global apocalypse in the history of the Earth. And so by creating a single moment in time in the surface of the Earth, we can define everything that occurred after it.